I'm very excited. I'm very happy that I turned out to be casting this one. TVT, also I think a very fun matchup, particularly when it is between two aggressive players that are well matched. The desk already kind of went over it, but they have been a little back and forth recently. The most recent win, I believe, did go to Byun, but how has their preparation gone for this tournament, knowing they're facing each other? In the top left, as the Red Terran, we do have Oliveira.
Representing Weibo Gaming fantastically recently, working so hard. But down here in the bottom right, a player who is always able to upset the very best Terrans in the world, a player you can never count out. A man who's won world championships in the past, representing Shopify Rebellion. In the bottom right side, it is Byun. Famous for being a fan favorite, who is very emotional. He rides, you know, he just wears his emotions on his sleeves. He rides the ups, he rides the downs, and you also know that he gets nervous. He does get nervous in these stage issues and sometimes does tense up and leads to extreme pain in his wrists, something that he encounters almost every tournament, hopefully something he can avoid for as long as possible in his run here as he opens up with that highly aggressive, patented Byun strategy. Proxies a second barrack, so it looks like an early 3 Reaper pressure, hoping to catch out Oliveira, going for a 1-Rex expand, which it seems like he is going to catch. Yeah. However, the SCV scout, do you think that can recognize you've been proxied, or does it just look exactly like a normal build when that SCV arrives?
It should look like a factory expand.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be blocked out from the top, and it should be very suspicious. Now, this is less of a problem as if compared to when you don't scout the full-on double proxy racks. So if that happens and your 1-Rex expanding and you're under the impression it's not a proxy 2 rack, so you might just straight up be dead. With the half and half, you definitely have the chance to recover. He actually gets in to the main base, though, and I think the gas timings might be a little different. I don't know if he can actually notice that, but
there should be a factory down by now as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. That actually, I think, is the key thing. The factory would already be down, so he's not going to change his build, but he is going to change his placement. He puts the command center on the high ground. He's going to make sure that he is playing defensive. His Reaper's not going to run out and get shot down by 2 Reapers. This should be Oliveira able to defend well. Byun's going to be trying to find some type of snowball effect, or maybe a couple of snipes, or even just to pin him back for an extended period of time so he can recover his economy.
Slight delay on the Marine starting there for Oliveira. Went straight for the second depot wall-off. Now, Byun didn't have to scout. So even though this is a great build order for Oliveira, you've SCV scouted, you know you're being rushed, as he does call for a pause. Hotkey lose. For me, when I read that, I immediately started thinking, like, have you ever had the key on your keyboard stick to your finger if you've got like a really old keycap and it comes off as you're pressing a button?
No.
Don't use an old keyboard in a tournament. I doubt that's the actual issue. I'm sure just a certain hotkey maybe didn't quite carry over with his profile. This occasionally happens when you're swapping computers.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure he's not using an old 20-year-old keyboard where like the keycaps are flying off in the middle of the game.
Maybe you're just using a really bad keyboard, man. I've used my keyboard for the last 10 years. It has custom keycaps, and they've been totally fine. I don't know, man.
Sweaty hands and intense games, perhaps, but already an SCV snipe. Byun goes in deep, gets another one, gets out. Great micro there for Byun, getting himself some damage without overcommitting. You don't want to lose the Reapers here because you want to kind of maintain a bit of control. By forcing the SCVs off the line. That's going to be huge.
Hey, player APM comparison's pretty cool. Spiking up to 500 there for Byun. That makes sense. Yeah, we're going to keep an eye on, I guess, you know, obviously the APM, sure, but whether or not that APM can actually get him more economic damage. Already getting a couple of SCVs is nice, but adding 1 or 2 more would be even better. Again, the potential to snowball with absolutely godlike micro exists with Reapers. That's not going to be a snowball, but it was an additional SCV kill. Now the question would be, is this enough damage to make up for the command center first? Also keeping in mind, the command center was on the high ground. Sorry, barracks expand, obviously. But that is the question. Byun on the way with his own command center now, just under halfway done in his natural. He gets that benefit. He is ahead by 2 SCVs.
And map control gives you other benefits, going to the starport a little faster because you don't feel like you need to rush that Cyclone out immediately. So Byun's delayed his Cyclone a few seconds, whilst Oliveira going straight for the second Cyclone. I would imagine an early medevac for Oliveira, and we know that Byun likes to be aggressive, so I would not be surprised for this to be like both players with medevacs with Cyclones and them dueling on the map. For Oliveira, I'd say you want to keep things a little more calm and controlled. If the game gets chaotic aggressive, that's going to favor Byun with his speed and micro advantage. But Oliveira usually has some very intelligent understanding of how to get ahead and how to play safe.
Yeah, he's getting a Viking, actually. He's going to go ahead and defend against the harassment from Byun. Very, very common, especially on the Korean server, which Oliveira plays, I think, to see the medevac against medevac. But you can try and kind of lean into that and say, all right, I'll just defend, get this proper position with a much faster third CC. And that one Viking does a lot, especially if it catches it before it can unload.
And not expecting a two-port follow-up. Because if Oliveira does this quick third command center before taking any gases on the natural, you're very exposed to someone going two-port Viking tank push. But he says it's Byun. Byun's not going to play two-port Viking. He's going to make a medevac. He's going to try and attack me. So the Viking is a perfect call, but he's not in position right now. We'll be able to at least get inside the base. The question is, can you get out again once that Viking comes in from behind?
It is unfortunate that everything got to unload, but obviously only one thing actually shoots up. So the Viking is helping out where it can. Quick response from the rest of the army as well. Some weakened SCVs from earlier could be worth sniping. The sacrifice of the Reapers, tank will take them out before they can get much more in the natural. No, actually, they're going to get a couple more in the natural. That's going to be 4 more dead SCVs before this attack is officially cleaned up. The medevac, I don't believe, is out on the map. I think it did die, so that was certainly a trade, and that did scout that that's a third CC, just so much faster than Byun. So I wonder what Byun's thinking. He does have much faster stim. He's going to be out on the map. He's going to have some map control. That is going to be great when he gets there, but the problem is not there. His army's not particularly good. He just lost some, and Oliveira actually thinks that he can gain some map control himself.
Liberator coming in is going to be one way of distracting Oliveira, especially if he doesn't have anything that shoots up popping out of the production. But luckily for him, he turns around and heads home. Playing cautiously is going to help Oliveira get out of this. Otherwise, sticky situation. Liberator comes in the main. Quick reaction for him, and only losing 1 SCV. Very fast reaction for Ollie. Now, Ollie's got 3 command centers, so even though he's down in workers, the 3rd command center is just finished, or just started, I should say, for Byun. So there should be a kind of tying up of the economy. Byun has, of course, a bit of an army lead right now, but the infrastructure for Oliveira is miles ahead. Those extra barracks coming in. Actually, we do have the 2nd barracks earlier because of the proxy for Byun, and he's getting earlier engineering bays. So it's only, I mean, you've got a faster 3rd barracks as Oliveira, but it's still a very even game right now.
4 worker difference, keeping consistent between the two. Byun getting his command centers on location compared to Oliveira has certainly made up for that deficit of the timing. And I think we are going to get into a very even mid-game, but Byun playing out the aggressor very well. Oliveira not maybe playing as well as you would hope. Just like the epitome of defense, might have been a few less SCVs killed, but it would have been extremely difficult to do against the likes of Byun. So fair is fair, within 3 workers of each other, within 6 army supply of each other, both of them on 3 bases, but now we got a double drop from Byun with stim and a tank in the main base, going after Oliveira's stim. That is denied. Further setting him back in those important upgrades.
This is a very frustrating moment for the Chinese Terran. Oliveira has been dropped in the same spot by surprise twice in a row while having Vikings on standby nearby. He finally gets rid of the tank, but he's losing engineering base. He's already lost his stim. Byun is famous for some of the most crazy, dangerous, aggressive drops in the game, and they are paying off for him in game 1 of this tournament. Oliveira looks frustrated on the camera. He is not meant to be taking this much damage right now, but he knows that this is going to put him miles behind, and he's now going to have to mount a comeback because look at that, even the Viking goes down at the tail end. He's trying to rebuild his engineering base, but even that got delayed, and Byun has map control. He's been aggressive from the start, and he's really taken that stance of, hey, pressure's on you. You don't get to make mistakes, so I'm going to get way ahead. And guess what? A couple of small mistakes slipping through. Byun's capitalized. He's built his 3rd base on location, which has allowed him to catch right on up in the economy. And a few auto turrets come in. This is really the best thing Oliveira's done on Byun's side of the map all game.
Yeah, and it's going to get a couple of SCGs as well as make them push off mining, but not comparable to the infrastructure that was just killed there by Byun. Really should be feeling good about the momentum that he's building. Very much going to go into that TVT momentum. 8 racks as well when we get there. Already 4th CC actually, so he is taking the map. Scans make sure they didn't misread. Oh, that was Oliveira's scan. He wants to know if there's something just waiting over there. Potentially coupling up with this main push, but it is just the main push. Oliveira, without stim, combat shields, or 1-1, is going to be very dependent on proper tank positioning, but with only 2 tanks covering this wide of an area, 3rd one's back in the natural, there might be a potential time where Byun can overwhelm.
He doesn't even need to commit here, but he's just got such a good upgrade advantage. He's diving in. A bit of a crazy attack for Byun, because Byun is being exceptionally greedy behind this. This was a, oh, let's see if I can get some damage. Why not? Find an opportunity. But, I mean, look at the worker count. Byun's got the 4th base, 8 racks building reactors, double factory. His armory's up. His 2-2 starts a good 40 seconds earlier. The 4th built on location. Byun is one of the scariest players. When he's ahead in TVT, and he gets into 8 racks reacted Marine, I mean, he will just start playing a movement style of game. You wall off with tanks and Vikings and turrets. You go to that slow game style. Maru, best in the world there, you know. But when you get the mobile style of Mass Marine, this is where Byun is very hard to stop.
Can't imagine that Hellions on purpose. As a tank is very much necessary right now. Tanks are what's going to get over that bridge of the supply and the upgrades until you basically catch up, right? Until you're maxed out with your own 3-3. The tanks are going to cover you. So that was a mistake there. And, you know, it's maybe small, but it just shows how much he is under pressure. He knows that he's the one in trouble. He's starting to make a couple more mistakes. He's really got to get back onto the headspace, you know, and just be like, oh no, I can recover. TVT, full of comebacks across the years. This can still happen. Got to play very precisely.
Yeah, defender's advantage does exist in this matchup, but Byun, he's already thinking about taking a 5th base on location. He's sending an SCV out right now is Byun. So he's saying, okay, you're defending well on 3 base. Guess what? I'll go to 5. And that one does start up right now as we speak. And you can see the workers comparison to the last 2 minutes in that bottom right side of the screen. And that really is a display there of the fact that that worker count is flipped in that graph, actually. So the red is actually Byun, that number on the top. Byun is the one with the higher worker advantage. We just got the names, or the colors the wrong way around on that. But that's all right. The Marines and the tanks, the medevacs coming forward right now. And here we go. Is he actually pushing in? Byun going up the ramp. A little bit of a crazy move, but there's just so few tanks. You were pointing out the accidental Hellion earlier. Oliveira, if he had even one more tank siege there, could have punished that move forward a lot more. These small, tiny mistakes for Oliveira are making it hard to mount a comeback. That being said, I don't think you really want to find yourself in the position you're in as Oliveira in Game 1. He's doing a decent job of trying to stabilize, but he has to play patiently, slowly, and dig for the big mistake, the panic moment from Byun where he makes the big miscall. So far, Byun has not given him those mistakes, and I'm really wondering when Byun rotates from this position. Right now, he's happy to slow down the 4th. Does he rotate for a Doom drop in the main or a dive on the 3rd base at some point? I think it's only a matter of time until he looks for a new angle.
Yes, yeah, I think he will have to. I feel like we've reached that point where it is just so difficult to actually kill a Terran without your own air superiority anyway. Byun is pretty good at trying and actually manages to get that Liberator off his tank's back, so they continue to wall up that planetary. The army's going to come in now for Oliveira. He thinks he can actually get a break on this. It's a bit bold going down that ramp. 2-2 not done for Oliveira either, and he was incorrect. Could not break that down. 2 tanks still shelling away on his planetary.
He does get his tanks a bit further forward, so he's got at least ramp control now, does Oliveira, but it's still an awkward position as more Liberators will finally break him out. Now, Oliveira does not have 3-3 started yet. His 2-2's just now finishing. He's building a 5th command center, though, and remember, once you get maxed out, it's going to become a more methodical and slower game. Byun has shown no sign of wanting to play that game. He is not building extra starports, nor extra factories, nor armory upgrades. He is simply mass expanding and playing Marine tank. He has to play, think of him as the Zerg. He's got the lower value units, but he's got more of them, they're faster. If he fights in a choke point, the tanks of Oliveira will rip him to shreds. But if he can catch Oliveira out of position, drop in the main, attack the 3rd, find a way in behind, that's when Byun will be able to pick him apart. And there we go, that's that Doom drop we've been waiting for this whole time.
No, do not go too far off to the right. Okay, I think without boost, you might be able to respond in time or not. Just kidding. Oh, no boost makes 2 medevacs go down. Obviously, the reveal on the intention, too. It's not the end of the world for Byun, but he was hoping that would be a little bit of a 1-2 punch, and instead, he does get stopped. Very lucky timing, just got to say that. That was lucky timing on Oliveira getting over right to that right location. Byun is going to be slapped away for that attempt. He could still attempt many more.
Hey, the double Liberator. This is the Oliveira World Championship Classic. For those who don't know, Oliveira is the reigning world champion, and a lot of his secret to success was Liberator harassment. You know, when the game gets intense and everyone gets busy, hey, I'm just going to use that shift click. I'm going to queue a few of these guys to go hit the back of your base, force a big overreaction. When you're on 4 base, you don't care about losing two Liberators. What you care about here is pulling your opponent's attention away, pulling them away from your side of the map. But we didn't have any tanks in position on the north. Third base position gets grabbed by Byun, and Byun now sieging down part of that production, but not willing to push in any deeper, even though there were tanks on the bottom side. So he's going to back away, the Liberator being a nuisance, counterattack of Marines. Oliveira is starting to take back control of this game, Zombie Grub.
He absolutely is. 16 SCVs go down, no cancel on the command centers as Byun does get that one, but he didn't cancel the first because he just lifted his units into the medevacs. Gonna go for the main base. How many missile turrets are available? How many reinforcements can Oliveira even get in there? That's a lot of missile turrets, gotta say. Byun's gonna go for a YOLO mode. He does get 3 medevacs kind of in. 2 will fully unload. It is only Marines. And
if he gets the 3-3, if he gets the 3-3, that's really worth it.
He's gonna get it. Plus 3 attacks gonna go down. Armor might live, but you want that attack more than anything.
Byun's kind of rich. You can argue it's okay. If he gets both, it's super worth it. SCV's trying to... Oliveira's pulling away with a misclick. No! Oh, he barely saves it. Oliveira with an almost huge mistake. Obviously, it's because he's getting pushed down the bottom. That is massive. Byun taking control of this map. Just when it looked like Oliveira was fighting his way back into it, he gets inside the main. Byun does with those crazy risky drops, even after the previous one completely failed. If he can get rid of this planetary, that'll be huge. Viking advantage is there, though. The tank's being forced to unsiege, and the Liberators will save Oliveira's bacon in this moment. He stabilizes on 5 base, and guess what? Byun may be adding extra orbitals, but he doesn't have, like, a massive advantage. He's trying to swap into his own Viking count.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a risky transition, because Oliveira is so far ahead on the Vikings already, and you're giving up momentum. The moment you do this, you can't keep doing those doom drops in the main because you're no longer going to have the Marine advantage in this game.
Yes, that is a very good point, but it's something that eventually I think you do have to admit. And there's one thing that Byun has a lot of experience with. It's trying to break a turtle Terran, particularly Maru, with the 8 racks. He has tried and tried again and fallen short. Occasionally he just try and transfer, and Maru's just better in that department as well. You got to imagine that Byun has also worked on that transition, and it might be pulling out a little bit better of the late game air here. We're going to find out soon. Now, right now, the Marines are still doing work. A lot of Vikings just went down there. Liberators sieging up, but they could be vulnerable. Tank's not quite close enough to protect them. Once again, that 3rd CC is going to be a little bit of a vulnerable area, but look at that. Through the middle of the map, Oliveira coming in with a lot of tanks. Scans ahead. Doesn't see enough defense. Is going to set up between 2 planetaries. Attack both, but Byun going for another Doom Drop into the main base. This time, more Venevacs, better Doom Drop, and that is with tanks as well. He is going to take control of the production, while Oliveira is, quote-unquote, just killing the economy.
Don't poke the bear, because he might swipe you back, and that's exactly what's happened here. Byun getting out-positioned a little bit, losing control of his 5th and his 4th base, but Byun has taken control of Oliveira's main and has said, oh, no worries, tit for tat. You can take out a few of my pieces. I'll give up my bishop. I'll give up a few pawns. You're going to lose your king.
Oh, wow. Okay, a couple of tanks were down there that Byun wasn't expecting. Loses a lot of his Marine force trying to get down the ramp. Oliveira having to sacrifice his main. I think he realized that very, very quickly. The production is going to be a little bit low for Oliveira. You can see those minerals rising up as he tries to replace it, while also making sure that his army does never get overwhelmed, particularly on the Liberator. He actually doesn't have that many Vikings on the front line. Byun could get the Viking lead and get his own Liberator. We still have these units trying to cause problems. Oliveira doesn't have a lot of mobility. I think he's defending at his home with mostly tanks right now.
Byun has a 30 army supply advantage. If he catches this army, it will be game. Those tanks have to be defended. Oliveira's trying to siege up. The Marines are on top. 3 of them go down. 4 of them before they can fire. The first volley does a lot of damage, though. And Byun, he gets a lot of tanks, but he sacrifices so much army to do it at the same time. Double Liberator in the picture, and Picture is on the 3rd base, taking out so many of Oliveira's tanks. Oliveira just lost a lot of units up at his 3rd at the same time. In the main fight, it was a trade. Still a 20 army supply advantage for Byun, but Oliveira has money in the bank. He's rebuilding his production. Oliveira, I believe, has a better economic setup, even though it's taking a while to rebuild the production. So it's still a very even game that could go either way. You can look at the production tab and tell Byun is on a 1-track mind right now. Kill, kill, kill. He just build Marines, make more units, and keep on fighting, whilst Oliveira is still trying to stabilize. He's been on the defensive for the last 18 minutes in this game, and he's just trying to weather the storm.
All right, so that scan revealed to Oliveira that Oliveira knows that maybe he shouldn't take that base. Looks like he's going to try regardless. No, he is flying it back, but the same thing did not happen in the other corner. Oliveira once again, great timing on the Marines to the right side. Byun trying to move that command center away, but it's not going to happen. That's that command center. Oliveira also finally having +3. It was not quite done in that last fight, and it still managed to be as close as it was. Now with the equal upgrades across the board, tanks included, and that economy, and finally being able to spend his money, he's back in the game, and he's back to trying to go for blow for blow.
Wow, okay, Oliveira a little sloppy on losing those Marines. Some of the trade was okay, but then it went in Byun's favor. Byun is 27 army supply ahead, not building workers. Upgrades, command centers. A lot of worker reproductions happen for Oliveira. Oliveira is investing in the long game. Byun is investing everything in the momentum of this position, the army advantage, and honestly, I think he would love to doom drop the main or just get a siege on a base. Like, Byun is going to look to fight in the next 2 minutes, and Oliveira will have to defend with inferior numbers. He needs great positioning, and he needs to keep track of Byun's army. Easier said than done as the Liberator comes in on the right side. Marines will clean that up.
Oh, you can target fire that tank. Yeah, okay. Well.
Oh,
that's a lot of army. That is a lot of army. Realizing not much is protecting that entry into the natural. Some tanks do siege up, and it's very awkward. It's one at a time. It's not going to work. The Marines blitz on through to the natural and potentially onto the main base again. Well, I guess this is where the production is now, so it's as good as the main base. Actually rebuffs the attack to the bottom side for the most part as well. Oliveira in a very tricky position. Gets those tanks siege up on the high ground, pushes this back, and actually, at the end of the day, it will be the medevacs that survive. Supplies very close.
And you know, this was kind of wild because we've seen Byun took a bit of economic damage behind. Remember, Oliveira's been building his economy up. He's got a planetary guard up in the north of the map. Oliveira is playing a flexible game right now. He is trying to continue to macro to focus on the big picture. Byun's production tab has shown nothing but army for the last 4 minutes of this game. And as the supply draws closer, one has to feel like Oliveira, with grit and determination, is gaining ground in a match which he has been wildly behind for the last 10 to 15 minutes. He has been in the disadvantage, but he is showing the sort of determination that he showed back when he won that world championship a year and a half ago.
Absolutely. We do see him often mining more. We're going to be looking at those arrows around the minerals quite a bit. When there's none, it's actually mining fairly even. That's the case right now. Byun's hoping to actually make it his favor, but tanks plus planetary easily takes care of those Marines, and actually has got a skedaddle, hoping to pull him out of position. However, I think I did see him look to the bottom left. The planetary isn't there, but the command center was floating at the exact wrong time. Finally, Byun getting the advantage on that. Will find a brand new command center.
Byun's had a lot more orbitals all game as well, so even when his worker count's lower, he's got so many mules dropping more scans available, which is why his income's keeping up, and his supply as well. Oliveira with a push here, but remember, he's down 36 army supply. The bigger that gap gets in the army supply, one has to worry about how fragile a position this is. It feels to me like Byun can just split his army, sandwich this. He's going to clean this up and probably have the game in the bag, but if Oliveira can maybe chip away it and bleed him out a little. Oh, Byun very decisive, goes for it. The Marines stimming forward, and there's so many Marines for Byun. He's going to be able to break through.
This is going to... Well, wait a minute. Okay, no, he doesn't. Oh my god, that one tank on such low health. Real baller right there.
A lot of the Marines came in a little late, right?
Yeah, that wasn't all at once. And because of that, the supplies have almost completely evened up at this point.
I'm surprised we didn't see more of a reaction from Byun, because that was a bit of a blunderous engagement. He had about triple the army supply in that area of the map, but he only went in a few units at a time, and that tank comes forward for a bit of harassment on the SCVs. Oliveira hanging on. He's still down 15 to 20 army supply. Is such a hard spot. He's on mass tank Viking. Oh, but he's going to lose tank position on his base. The Liberators, though. The Liberators have just been saving the day repeatedly, haven't they? The tanks in the planetary guard against the Marines. Byun throws his dire section of Marines away, and the tanks are forced backwards. Byun is getting over eager. He does not need to rush things. He could secure the gold base for himself, but this has been the sort of highly aggressive mode he's been in for the last 5 minutes, and Oliveira just keeps on being more sturdy than Byun expects. Byun's like, can you just get out of this game now? I've had such an army lead this whole time, but Oliveira is just hanging on and refusing to go down.
He really is, and he's actually bringing it back. Full army coming through the middle of the map. Byun is going to actually intercept to a degree. Some tanks were siege, not all of them, but now all of them are. He's coming in with potential surround. It's a little lopsided in the timing, however, and it's not going to be good enough. Oliveira with the win here. Byun got that advantage, he got that momentum, but then he was just not able to quite close it out.
Shades of Katowice 2023, where Oliveira had a bunch of Terran versus Terran matches just like that, where he was miles behind against the likes of Clem and had to fight back from that position. And he did it there. And that was like him barely getting through groups, becoming the world champion. It all started with similar matches to this, where you're on the back foot, you're just surviving and fighting back. I mean, when he lost control of the production in the main, I thought things were kind of screwed. But hats off to Oliveira. He was counter-pressuring with units at the same time. He was pushing with his tanks. And he kind of slowly sieged up towards his main base with Liberators and tanks. And it was when he actually cleared all those Marines with a few good tank volleys from the low ground, and there was so much production, depots, upgrade structures left alive in Oliveira's main base. I think salvaging about half of his main base was really integral in coming back into this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Got some highlights from the game. There was quite a few as we have the Marines.
Watch the first tank volley.
Yeah, the first tank volley was amazing. The Marines looked like they were going to overwhelm, but all the tanks firing at once really changed that around. And Byun just had, overall, too many fights where he underestimated that the tanks were in position, that they were all sieged up. It happened again here, actually. Don't really blame him. We didn't really say tanks on the high ground either, but eventually, a couple of seconds, he's going to run in and lose the Marines, too.
Yeah, there's a few moments like this where Byun showed that trademark just cavalier attitude. I'll pick up my whole army. I'm going to drop through here. I don't care. I'm going to shove into your production. And there was always like just a few tanks on the edges that would, it looked like Oliveira's going to crumble. They get a few shots off there and suddenly, hey, he's back in the game. Now this was the big blunder, I think. We could see about 15 Marines went in first. Then the other 20 Marines came up the left side.
Yeah.
It was a little disjointed, and the tanks of Byun just had no part in this fight whatsoever.
Yeah, there's also like Marines attacking Vikings instead that distracted, and that +1 or even +2 armor at that time for tanks and Vikings helped that battle as well. Oliveira then taking his final fight. If Byun had really had the best possible surround, this was not it. That might have still been a back and forth game, but yeah, didn't really get that perfect surround. He was not anticipating having to defend that area, and going through his own choke hurt quite a bit.
What a great way to start the tournament off here. A couple of good series so far, and already the second match we've got a barn burner of a TVT. I mean, we're just going to spam that word this whole tournament, aren't we? It's going to be fun. Honestly, I was expecting this to be a very big information gathering match, because I'm like, what form are they both bringing? I think they both looked really good, but I think the ability to hang on from behind like that and come back, for me, that always speaks just worlds about your tournament readiness as a player. In a tournament, when you're nervous and it's the first round, and in general, just fighting back against a guy like Byun when he's got control of the map like that, it's so very hard.
Yeah, it is extremely difficult, and Byun's probably going to get really frustrated already. He's like, you know, I can usually beat everyone but Maru with this, so what's the deal here? I don't like this. That's just a discouraging loss, because he did absolutely have the momentum. He had the advantage for so much of that game, and it's a tale as old as time for him. Just quite not being able to beat these really fantastic late-game players who also, with Oliveira's case, I think, have a special highlight of being able to pull back the comebacks, have the grit and determination. Like, he's proven over the last year and a half, basically, that you can't count him out at any point.
Yeah, I think, you know, some people might have thought with that Dallas run, Oliveira, it was all build orders. It was, oh, he's got a good 8 racks. You know, he's really optimized being super greedy to get to late game Terran versus Zerg. But no, his TVTs, his TVPs looked fantastic as well. It wasn't just the Terran versus Zerg. So Oliveira, I do feel, is the cutting edge of the Terran meta right now. If you're looking to copy builds and learn how to optimize things, he is the player who is just further ahead of anybody else at the moment. And it's just so fascinating to see him come out in such a good form. No doubt, knowing his training regimen, Oliveira always gets used to the time zone before the tournament now. He swaps to that sleep schedule of the local time zone, so there's no jet lag issues. He doesn't just rely on the 2 or 3 days kind of warm up here. He grinds a ton of games with the likes of Cyril and anyone else. And it's going to be kind of, it's a very different training regimen, because Oliveira will play online cups, but he's also grinding in secret, really seeking out the best competition, whereas Byun is like, I'm going to queue 50 ladder games, play 3 online tournaments, and just play as much as possible. And all of Byun's builds and his recent practice is kind of out there, but the man is going to rely on his micro, his skill, and his momentum and tempo to overwhelm his opponents. So far in game 1, that did not work out. Oliveira was able to stop him in his tracks. We're going to find out what happens in game 2.
As we are, it's going to be on Oceanborn. In the top left, we do have the red Terran, Oliveira.
And down here in the bottom right side of Oceanborn, a man who started off map 1 well, but wasn't able to close it out. Let's see if he can get back in the win column. In the bottom right side, in the blue, representing Shopify Rebellion, it's Byun. he's had so many moments over the years and phases, you know. One-man army was what people called Byun back when he was one of the few players without a team in Korea who came out, won a GSL, went on to win the World Championship back at that time in 2016 in a very close series against Dark, and it was kind of unheard of at that time. This guy he streamed a lot, he played like so many ladder games, he worked so hard, and he didn't really have much support network. And you know, we saw him cry up there with just elation and happiness when he managed to get that win. But since then, we've seen him, you know, on his lowest lows, where he'll absolutely just wear his heart on his sleeve, and you can feel the pain when things don't go his way. But you can also feel these amazing successes and these moments when he's just feeling it in the flare. And it's hard not to get excited watching Byun. But of course, Oliveira is the man who in the last year and a half has taken a little bit of that excitement as an up-and-coming player that just shocked everyone. And people said, oh my gosh, this guy is someone to get excited about.
You know what? You just made me realize it's the one-man army versus the normal man.
Oh, that's true, hey.
Yeah, that's actually great. That's we definitely didn't just come up with that. We were planning it.
The normal man.
Yeah, the normal man. That was his nickname after he won Katowice and was labeled the global world champion for Starcraft II, because he said anyone can do it. Anyone can get to where I am. He's done it through a lot of hard work, though. That's no doubt about that.
That's his whole identity, isn't it?
Exactly.
I'm not as talented as any of these other players. He'll say frequently, Oliveira says, but I will work harder than them. And that's, I mean, I love it. I love the work ethic. It shows in his tournament preparation. It shows in his build orders. He was kind of critical of the other Terran players leading into Dallas recently. Oh, watch out, watch out.
Oh, no.
Slow reaction. Losing the first Reaper is rough. A slow reaction for Oliveira. And Byun already off to a stellar start. Good SCV micro, pulling back the weak ones to follow up. But now Oliveira, after losing that first Reaper, is not only in a problematic position, he's in an incredibly dangerous one. Losing your first Reaper. Oh, but he gets a kill back.
Yeah,
Immediately fighting back. Byun is absolutely upset with that. He knew he had so much momentum. If he waited for the third Reaper, he'd have a great advantage here. But now it's 3 versus 2 rather than 4 versus 2. It's still going to be a good fight for him, though. Oliveira moving out of the map, maybe a little dangerous. The Hellion does trade. One of the Reapers, sorry for a Reaper, but the Hellion goes out across the map, now separated from defending that command center. Oliveira started another depot on the high ground, which will stop him from getting supply blocked. And Byun starts a command center at home.
That was very, very close, because honestly, without that Reaper loss, Byun might have started to snowball. His Reaper grenades are very, very good. He knows he would have had a chance. He would have kept hammering and hammering and hammering. And even though Hellions are supposed to be that kind of endpoint of Reapers, we've seen so many games amongst these professionals where the Reaper concave plus grenade still makes it a problem. But there is a little more back and forth. Oliveira also getting the snipe. Byun gets a couple of snipes, and well, at this point, Byun has delayed this command center quite a bit. He has also racked up some SCV kills because of that, and I think he might get another one. He's going to go after the Hellions. The one Hellion goes down, one Reaper goes down. The Cyclone is kind of vulnerable, guys. It is fragile, but we're going to have the Reapers go into the main base instead, or hippity-hoppity every which way to try and escape, but I think they got to actually choose and just dive.
Yeah, but definitely an annoying attack for Oliveira to deal with. But as the dust settles, it's the delay on the command center that's the main value. And oh my gosh, even that Hellion goes down. If this Reaper gets out, Oliveira will be very annoyed, but he cuts him off on the retreat and does take it out. The command center is still, oh my gosh, it's still not finished. The other Cyclone's here. It looks like that should be a trade, but no, the other Cyclone comes in and allows Oliveira to take an advantageous trade, something he desperately needed because he's behind in the command center. He's down 5 workers. And he's going to be sending a medevac across the map, eager to get some counter damage.
Yeah, their orbitals end up being very similarly timed, despite the differing openers. I can't believe so many SCVs died on top of that command center. A very frustrating opener. It does look like Oliveira is keeping his chill. And now he's looking for some revenge, but we got our little typical TVT moment where both of the medevacs pass each other without seeing each other, and it comes down who can multitask, who can actually defend at home and do the proper attack on the opposite side. Byun's getting a Viking that will help him on the defense, gonna pop very, very soon. Army is already unloaded, couple SCVs will go down, but with the tank there, not much more to do. He's gonna escape and focus back on his defense.
A couple of SCVs going down on both sides. You want to keep this alive. You want to extend the pressure, keep your opponent pinned in their base. And it seems like both sides have done that for now. Raven's up here, but if you force him to use an auto turret, that's already a win. because, okay, sure, I'll take a few hit points on my medevac. Oh, if you lose the Raven, that's especially nasty.
Yeah, fortunately, Oliveira did have his army coming up, but still played with fire a little bit. Byun, oh, jeez Louise, also kind of played with fire right there. Thank goodness it's the newest Cyclone, I suppose. Oh, no, it's not done yet! Nicely done! Oliveira realizing he had the opportunity, he was bringing that army back home, and realized no way that Byun's going to be able to escape to the left, he's going to go right. Excellent positioning. Oliveira starting to once again claw his way back into this game, but still down 7 SCVs.
Yeah, definitely a deficit there to be recovered from, but now with a good little army advantage, a bit of map control advantage, a couple of tanks coming forward. I think it's the right call for Oliveira to say, I want to get something done. I don't want to just sit back on this advantage because I've been taking a bit of beating early on. The Viking there, the Marines on the right side as well, though, and pulling back is absolutely the right course of action. Extra barracks going down for both sides. Oliveira's third command center is ahead. It feels to me like this game is going to even out, but if Byun can feel enough confidence to keep like expanding kind of on location with like his fourth base in a little bit, that sort of thing, he could start to build some more momentum. But interestingly, Byun's building 2 medevacs right now. That's very early to be building double medevac production.
Well, he's definitely going to take advantage of the faster stim with that.
Yeah, I mean, he might just go for another drop in the back. It set him up for success in the last game, right?
Yeah.
Like if you can just get inside that main. And indeed, a double Marine drop going to move across already. So yeah, he's paused medevac production for now. It was just to get that double drop out, I guess. And going now for the double upgrades in this like. Oliveira's ahead on the upgrades. Going for a faster 4th and 5th barracks is Oliveira also. And I think Byun's got a bit of army momentum supply, but if this drop gets shut down, I think Oliveira's earlier production will catch him right up.
Yes, I do believe so. I think this is very similar to our first game, except Oliveira might not lose stim this time or his upgrades, right? So while he is down almost like the same number of SCVs too, it's the same situation, faster 3rd CC, and then that grit that we know that he has to make the comeback over the long game as well. Tank will go down, unfortunately. The SCVs could not help that out. Byun's drop didn't get immediately cleared up, but didn't really get all that much done, and he's not able to time it out with a frontal attack. His army's still on his side of the map.
I like that Oliveira is building a Viking there. Got those medevacs that he thought were hiding in the back, but he didn't cut them off from leaving the base as the Cyclones are a little slow to get back there. And double Viking production for Oliveira. I think Oliveira's happy to play a slow turtley style after the last game. Byun looks over-eager. You talked about Byun impaling himself upon the defensive tank style of Maru in years gone past and not being able to break through. Oliveira's trying to be the Maru in this situation. He's trying to be the defensive rock, the bastion with the tank Viking advantage. Do not let Byun get momentum because his Marine micro is out of this world. His multitasking is fantastic, but right now, another big push coming forward. Only 1 tank in front of the 3rd command center. Byun's happy to just take a tank versus tank fight there with the advantage.
Ooh, that was nice use of the range there for the Raven. Wanted to make sure that he got a chance for his tanks to shine, but ends up that tank will go down, and his command center is still going to be under pressure. More army from Oliveira coming on 4th here, but he's not going to have combat shields, although he will have faster 1-1. Combat shields makes it very difficult to take this type of fight. He's probably going to have to lift the 3rd CC for sure. That is a delay on the mining. Byun getting ahead in that department, but can he find more success with this?
Swapping into medevac production is Oliveira. He's not going to try and defend this with the Liberators like in the last game. But the 3 versus 1 rule, remember, if you siege up 3 tanks in range of an enemy tank, you can just take the 2 shots to the face and then 1-shot it. And that's exactly what Byun keeps using here. There's just not enough tanks for Oliveira. He's lost a lot of tanks earlier on in this game. Oliveira's up in supply. He needs to move out with Marines right now, because if he gets kind of contained into his natural, that's going to be an issue. If he can get a drop or even a triple drop out, that'll be huge. Byun's going to start sieging towards the production. That tank line, even now with the elevator into the main base, Byun utilizing this forward position exceptionally well. Army supply does not matter if he's got the siege up.
Yeah, the tanks were vulnerable though, and Oliveira read that appropriately in the midst of battle. He's going to sacrifice some of his production or SCVs in the main base, but honestly not even that much. And grabbing all of Byun's tanks might just be the better call anyway. Don't lose the Ravens or medevacs unnecessarily. He will not. Byun is forced to escape. Was that actually the play from Byun? I think he maybe could have stayed around for a lot longer. He is still ahead, guys. In fact, by quite a bit on the economy. Kind of maybe deceivingly because that's actually oversaturated, but he definitely is ahead on the economy. But he just lost a lot of tanks. So what is currently the tank-to-tank count?
Yeah, that unit count's always rather telling. It is 5 against 1. Definitely something where you could even see a move out for Oliveira be very effective, but he might just be stuck in a defensive stance. Mentally, he just has so little information. Where is Byun's economy at? How much does Byun have behind this? And Byun ain't gonna stop. He's just gonna keep on dropping. Byun playing a crazy aggressive style. I think, yeah, the old Abe Simpson, move in, hang your hat on the rack, and then immediately take it off and walk out is the right call. If Oliveira's counter pushing, that sort of drop really puts Oliveira all in, and it puts him in a very hard position. But for the moment, you just chill. You let your numbers rebuild. Here is Byun. I think Byun should have a second factory up by now as well. So if he could get double tank production going, that would really do a lot to regain his control over this matchup.
You would think, but I'm not sure that he does.
Not even single tank production's a problem, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just a little mistake there. He's definitely has the money for it, but regardless. So again, kind of back in the similar scenario, Oliveira absolutely the one that is behind, but in 3 base versus, well, 4 base, but once you're on 3 base, Terrans are very good at making comebacks. That is kind of the secret. If you can kill them before they get the 3rd, or get a big advantage before they get the 3rd, then you can probably kill them.
Yeah.
If you're not able to push that advantage, they get the 3rd, they get it saturated, they get 6 gases, they get some Sim City. That's what the struggle is. That's what the struggle was last game, and it's going to be the struggle again here.
I mean, he's playing Mass Marine again, this 4th command center being in the open. Oh my gosh, he's just stimming in the tanks. Too many of them were on siege there. And Byun dives on top. A crazy move, but look at the arc of Marines. And Oliveira's went in single file into the choke point. A disastrous engagement for Oliveira.
Yeah, on so many fronts, right? Like the tanks being on siege was one thing, but then he let his Marines go through that choke of the 4th command center that he probably should have canceled anyway. That was very, very ugly, and now Byun finding the ticket to actually crack the 3rd base. That supply is overwhelming. This time around, he is not going to let Oliveira get that comeback, and Byun is going to fight back eventually.
Byun's Marine, Byun's still in an amazing position, but his Marine rally, you could tell, was triple stimmed. And that is a sign that the man has been doing select all army stim during these fights. So Byun's playing like an in-your-face, I'm gonna get you style. He's not playing calm, he's not hedging his bets. It's exactly what we saw in the last game. I want to overwhelm. And I think there's a big argument. It's not the optimal strategy for Oceanborn. It's the strategy, though, that is optimal for Byun because he's a momentum-based player and he knows if he can overwhelm you and get that momentum, he can try to carry it through. He is sticking to an 8-rack style, and I'm going to overwhelm you style. And if he gets rid of that command center again, that's a real problem for Oliveira.
Yes, it is. That Liberator isn't going to be able to help out for very long. The Marines do successfully snipe it, and Oliveira will push back the high ground units, but those tanks will always be obnoxious. Byun's continuing to expand back on his side of the map as well. 5th and 6th bases, all on location. He knows he's not being attacked, so from most angles with the center tower, might add another one onto that 6th just to really make sure. But I think it's become pretty clear Oliveira does not have a lot. All of it is defending in this 3rd base. Only 1 tank in the natural. It's just overall not enough. Oliveira not going to tap out until he actually loses everything because he knows that Byun is eager to end the game right now. In fact, might be too eager. A couple more overstims, a couple more bad fights. Oliveira's back into it.
You never know when your opponent's going to chuck a Zerg zombie grub and just kind of run into a choke point repeatedly. And hey, after the comeback you made in game 1, of course you're going to hang in there and fight it out. Oliveira, though, he needs a few minutes of things to go his way. He needs to close the supply gap. And up against a 6-base Byun, there aren't many opportunities. I mean, he goes out for a dangerous drop. Byun seeing this army count, he could stim for the win right now. He can just stim from 2 sides. I think Byun's setting up for it. The triple drop moving out, it means you've got almost no support. You've got about 5 tanks, 5 Vikings, a couple libs, and Byun is going to stim for the win, coming in right now. Where are the Marines from the other ramp? I thought he set those up, but they apparently fell out of position. Byun may be blundering another one of these tank line breaks here. The counter drop's going to come in as well. Oliveira somehow gains control or remains in control over that 3rd base. I think Byun has too many units. It probably doesn't matter, but definitely a little bit of a sloppy break on the tank line for Byun, and something which, you know, his struggle to finish off these advantaged games is a little bit of a worry for Byun. Yeah,
it is, but I think this one is in the bag. Such a drastic difference of supply, even as these tanks go down, because they get... Wow, all right. Even then, 70 supply difference, guys. Like, if Oliveira pulls this one back, it'll be absolutely... Okay, yeah, he takes a great fight and is like, nope, still gonna lose. That's when he taps out, funnily enough, but it does make sense. Byun does, in fact, get the win when he needed it. I think if we were talking about that fight around the third with the fourth building, if that didn't go so poorly,
Yeah.
I think we're absolutely talking about one of those even games, one of those games where Oliveira can successfully defend 4 bases and then get those drops, and it's very similar to the first game. Byun needed to get the win there, and you saw that he was urgent. This time around, such an advantage. That urgency paid off.
Yeah, Byun just having a little bit of a stretch there, as he always does in these high, tense moments. Games like this, you know, definitely start to feel very tense. Anyone who's played TVT past the 10-minute mark knows that what Byun experiences in games like this are a thing of even more intensity and just so absolutely brutal. But it's going to be really interesting to see how this series goes from here because, you know, Byun, he's trying to force the issue. He looks eager. He's got some really nice moves, though. I mean, this one started, of course, with him getting a Reaper snipe early on. This fight was just so bad. You could tell that Oliveira thought it was just a slow siege up, and he was like, oh, I'll inch my tanks forward. And it's like, no, dude. You have to worry about getting run over here. This is a very bad position to be in.
Yeah, unsieging all of your tanks under an opponent's scan is just always risky. Even if you have a lot of tanks and you're hoping they'll be able to siege up in time, it's risky. And that, I think, was really... I don't know, the nail in the coffin, maybe not quite, like one more hammer in, I suppose, but that was, I think, really where it became clear Oliveira would not make the comeback happen. And then when this was cleaned up, that was another just confirmation that Oliveira couldn't start to make this messy and make this a potential comeback game.
This is kind of wild, though. Beyond playing 8 racks on Oceanborn, so think about this on the theoretical perspective. That is the map where people always say tank Viking reigns supreme there because it's very easy to turtle up. There's not that many attack angles once you cut off like the one main drop angle into your main base. So for Byun to get an advantage and just continue with the 8 racks, like in Game 1, Golden Aura, a map with more opportunity for those drops and marine mobility, it shows that he wants to be very aggressive. I always look at someone going into a tournament like this and say, I want to see range from a player, the ability to swap into different things so that their opponent has to be very adaptive and can't just improve kind of incrementally game to game and say, oh, you keep doing the same thing. I'm going to get more used to it. Because Oliveira, he was in a much worse spot in that game and he was still fighting back from behind. I think I'd love to see Byun if he gets ahead off the early game, rather than 8 barracks, get the second factory, the second starport up straight away, and just get into the air control game. You've got the Great Mass expanding on location. Even with 5 racks, you can still find some good windows with your marine movement. But if you've got your opponent down a base or 2, and you take the Viking advantage, it's just checkmate. There's nothing you can do as Oliveira because you're just pinned against the wall. You have no map control. Yeah,
it should be. But I think you said it in the cast, you know, it's not about the map or what is technically superior. It's what Byun really loves to do and what he knows he's best with.
He likes to click.
So,
he likes to click those marines in.
Yeah, no, so I think as far as the 8 racks goes, I would bet he's still 8 racks. But I was actually thinking, you know, double proxy racks. Maybe not this time, you know. We'll see in a couple of seconds because we are into the 3rd game here. Alcyone is the map. In the bottom left for the Shopify Rebellion, he is Byun.
Looking focused as ever, and he needs to be, because he's playing against the reigning world champion. In the top right side of the map, representing Weibo Gaming, it is Oliveira. It really feels to me, every time I watch Oliveira over the last few months, like his planning is off the charts. He's very good at identifying where he can gain advantages, you know. There's a lot of the times you feel like 2 players will play and it's a pure mechanical kind of just who can get control of this area of the map, that area. But I think Oliveira has been very clever recently in terms of just little edges that he's looking for.
Yeah. We do have 2 gases up for Oliveira. Byun went gas first, actually. No second gas as of yet, so we'll change up.
I like that. I mean, it's always a little risky in some scenarios because you can't. It's awkward to afford, say, like an SCV scout with this build. So with a gas first, it's kind of the in-between of the double gas. You still get a pretty fast expansion up, but you sacrifice just a few units early on, right? Usually you go like Reaper into Factory into Reactor with this. No extra Marines, no second Reapers. So, you know, you give up the ability to pressure as hard. Does give you that faster tech, though. So, you know, you're a little behind on the double gas player in terms of tech, but you've got a much faster command center.
We do see Oliveira really having to change, please, you know, maybe scout that. Okay, all right. Well, hopefully he knows that it's there. Yeah, so I was going to say, Oliveira is definitely doing that SCV scout because of the consistent proxy racks, which you actually really prefer not to do when you double gas. You've already sacrificed some economy, so you don't want to SCV scout, but you also arguably don't have to. But it is arguable, right? Because in that last game, he didn't know it was coming. His Reaper wasn't on his control right at the moment that Byun appeared, and that started that potential problematic opener. Kind of evened out, but yeah, so he's taking that seriously. We do see him concerned over what Byun can do. But the SCV scout did get into the main base. It saw the racks, and then it left. And I'm actually not sure that was enough of a scout.
Yeah, does he necessarily know? I mean, he saw the lack of the second gas, so I think
Did he?
Yeah, because you see it's not mining. So you see he saw the workers mining in the left gas, and you see no workers mining in the right. And by that timing, that tells you everything you need to know.
Yep.
So he knows that it's a one gas build. He doesn't necessarily know it's gas first. And it seems like Oliveira's, happy enough, confident with the build that he's playing. Doesn't seem too worried about what's going on. And it's not a crazy curveball from Byun, right? It's just, oh, no, I'm going to go for a quicker medevac, the normal, maybe get out there and do my drop. And for all, intents and purposes, it really does look like a bit of a wash in terms of the opening. Of course, the earlier orbital will drop a mule and then float down for Byun, which helps give him a bit of an income boost. But the float time loses you an SCV or two anyway. So it ends up a very similar opening. And mirror matchup again with the Cyclone medevac. I always feel like Byun's scarier than most players in this scenario, but watching the way Oliveira's danced with him in the early game, I don't feel worried at all. It really is one of these things where it's like, hey, you guys are on a very even a level of multitasking and micro. So it's going to be Liberator again. Wow, Byun really leaning into the aggression.
Well, Liberator coming out for Oliveira as well. But, it is kind of odd to see that Oliveira has been on the defense. Because of the games, we understand why that happened. But, when I do think of Oliveira, I actually think of him being very aggressive as well. So I think we're going to see a little more of that as the games continue on, getting more chances, especially as Byun doesn't go for that dedicated 2 racks opener. And this would be actually one of those. But the medevac will appear first for Byun. He is getting a second barracks fairly quickly back at home. Something that Oliveira might actually scout with his own drop coming in just a little bit later. Both of them attacking into the natural. Supply depot does go down. Main base under attack. Oliveira snuck his Reapers in here and is getting a little bit more of the momentum. Byun's not exactly panicking, but yeah, he actually has to take this very seriously. 6 SCVs go down. His Liberators are going across the map. He is damaging a command center, but that's not going to kill it. And that's where they think he would actually either kill the command center or actually kill another 6 SCVs, right? But he's not doing either one.
Denied mining time is not really the highest value amount of damage, especially bleeding a few Marines out there. Liberators are being spotted on both sides.
Again?
And it is a very similar work account.
Oh
no, it is
wow.
again. Oh, great catch there. The Cyclone will get out, take a Hellion, but the other Cyclone cuts it off. No getting out of here for you, Byun. Byun is looking a little shook in the camera. I could see a very deep breath from Byun. He's kind of shook his shoulders out a little bit. He does not look happy with how this early game's going. And sending a Liberator in isolation with nothing else happening, that's not going to work against a guy like Oliveira. He's too good. And look, he hides the Cyclone. He's like, please siege up.
Yeah.
Byun, I'd love you to siege up so I can kill this Liberator. Come on, thank you. And Oliveira, look at the reaction. I mean, he doesn't pull the SCVs, which is a little sloppy, but 2 SCVs for a Liberator, I think you're okay with that. Oh, he's even doing the medevac dodges. Very fancy micro by Oliveira, dodging the projectile just before it connects. What a fantastic set play there. And we've got tanks and Marines coming out for Byun. You mentioned the second barracks earlier. He's going to have a bit of a unit advantage, but I don't think I saw Stim on the production tab or anything, did we?
That's confusing, actually.
I think he took too much damage, so his plan's just kind of gone haywire.
Yeah, I think so. This is actually very awkward. You get that second barracks that fast. You were 100% trying to get into that Stim medevac mode that he has in the previous games. If that was going to be delayed this much, I feel like you might as well have, done the 3rd CC first, then that barracks. But a little awkward there because of how this game has gone. Overall, though, you look at the numbers, Byun does still have that 4-worker lead. Seems like it's deja vu again, 3rd game in a row. And then he does have actually a decent army supply lead. I mean, his barracks has been producing. It's just that Stim is so late.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have the aggressive timing, but he gave it up to focus on rebuilding his economy and like his fundamentals. So this is actually a perfect adjustment to the damage that Byun took early on. Ooh, oh, nice catch there for Oliveira. Actually gets a Viking and then gets out. And you're very happy to take that. As long as you don't lose the medevac, you get to leave there, you get a free kill. Very happy. Liberator will come in for him as well, as he hasn't really used that. Byun spotted this earlier in the game, but in the midst of everything else happening, did forget about it.
Yeah, and they don't I love Stim. I'm just going to kind of casually walk up here. Oh, well, probably wasn't worth unsieging, but it is what it is. Some SCVs, couple of Marines, no secondary distraction for the Cyclones to get into the main base again. Oliveira trying to find more of those little pickoffs, but I think that time is now officially over. Yep, Medevac dead. Cyclones will die as well. Not going to take out the Viking in return. So close, but not quite.
Supply's looking amazing for Byun right now, Zombie Grub. I mean, this third base is a fair bit quicker, but the numbers are just like, there's so many Marines out of that early second barracks, and Stim's about to kick in. They don't have combat shields. They could get blasted by tanks. There's no Ravens to support this with interference matrix. So this is not a thing. Like, Byun should not be able to break Oliveira here, but if he catches him out of position or gets a drop in the main, I mean, just the mobility and the right now army power of Byun is definitely something which Oliveira has to be very careful of. And he's got no map vision. We see this army. Oliveira might be vaguely aware that this is a threat. Any big slip upstream could be massively punished in the next minute or two.
That is very important to note, because that's kind of what Byun needs to do as well. He's very far behind on the upgrades, and he has not started combat shields.
Indeed.
Yeah, so this is actually kind of a timing that he needs to hit, guys. Like, he needs to do some damage. He's making a massive mistake at this point. Combat shields, I believe, has been forgotten. That is catastrophic.
And he's going to just dive towards the natural with his drop. I don't think there's any units there in the natural, is there? A few Marines. Stim is not... Okay, so Stim's there for Oliveira. 1-1's there. If he stims and pulls the SCVs immediately, he can shut this down. He's got a turret as well. Oh gosh, Oliveira looks ready for this. If he stims and pulls the boys, he could get on top, and that is a shutdown. All of those Marines getting obliterated for what? Putting a turret on fire, maybe a single SCV. Byun is in trouble.
He's also macroing not very well. I think this game has actually gotten to him. He still hasn't gotten combat shields. He's adding on multiple more barracks, so, you know, spending some money, but I think he was actually just set off so much by that early game that even though had he played as well as we know he could, he would have been fine. It might have just affected him too much mentally.
Shield starts. Shield starts, Zombie Grub. I was also clenching a little bit there. Come on, please. I mean, I was thinking also, if you win without combat shields, that would be truly your epic. But 10 hit points on a Marine, 45 to 55 hit points is a massive difference in this matchup. Demu was talking about in the previous series, you know, hey, you can one-shot the Marines if they don't have that upgrade after they stim. It's huge with your siege tanks. Now, this is a good intercept for Byun. He's not quite sure where the drop is, but he's watching. Oliveira is as well, though. Oliveira with a very quick response. Yep,
combat shields versus no combat shields. That would have been ugly. Byun just gets out of there, and the third CC has some protective units, though. It's not too much of a worry. Main base, I believe, is covered. Third is covered. Oliveira's drop, not going to do too much more, but Oliveira has maybe taken a little map control. I wonder if he would be willing to push out. Doesn't look like it so far. Just sending out the harassing units. In fact, a scan from Byun, I think, kind of just confirmed that. At least it sees the fourth CC intention. Once again, Byun going bold. Despite not having the drops out in the map, he actually still goes for an on-location fourth, and it pays off again.
Yeah, Byun's been getting away with the faster expansions. It is a big momentum advantage to take them out like that. Liberator coming in for Oliveira. Oliveira's supply is still a little bit lower. Nice pullback with those drops. Oh, double Liberator even. Wow. He's so good at this double Liberator move while poking elsewhere. It's such a frustrating thing to deal with. And it really has become Oliveira's signature move. The double Liberator in the back while other things are distracting you. Marines in the middle are on the watchtower, and there's a bit of a skirmish going on. Does end up not unloading as the Marines would be on in nearby to protect his tanks.
Yeah, I think Oliveira would have, if he had that Zelnaga, I think he would be pushing, honestly. Just the distractions are really working right now. But Byun, at the very least, making sure that he has that middle. So Oliveira, a death push would have been seen and hopefully reacted to. These harassing units, Byun can eventually be okay with the damage taken. That was annoying, that was 11 SCVs, but overall the game's going to continue. It was making sure that Oliveira didn't catch him totally distracted, and that was a success. But Oliveira is still going to try and circumvent the army. Coming on the left side, Byun anticipates. He's got his own concave. Tank siege up for Byun, and that concave is quite beautiful. All before 2-2 for Oliveira as well, and that was not what Oliveira was hoping for.
A disappointed shake of the head for Oliveira, realizing that there is an unnecessary risk just there. He took so many losses. 5 tanks, 42 Marines for just 35 Marines of Byun's. Byun now has a massive tank advantage, massive Marine advantage, and of course that wasn't all of Oliveira's numbers, which begs the question, why was he committing with only a small amount of his siege tanks and his Marines so far exposed moves in front of his tank line. It was one of those moments where he's been defending all series long, and sometimes when you're stuck in your corner for so long in these games, you start to kind of lose situational awareness or a bit more of a feeling for when you should fight. And you kind of go, oh, let's see what I can get here. But Byun showing that decisiveness. Did he just pick up and boost in scan vision? Yes, he did. And he kind of goes to the right, then he goes back to the left. And you can see Byun is still trying to play a very aggressive Marine tank style. I wonder, because we saw him build a few Vikings, are we going to see the extra starports? He's building more command centers. I don't think he's on 8 racks yet, because I haven't really seen 16 Marines building at a time. Yeah, he is. No, he did go 8 racks again. Yeah. Every single game.
Yeah, it's just his thing, man. I think he might even be lacking confidence. You know, we'd have to ask him directly, but in the triple starport. Now, these medevacs, you know, they were forced to take an alternative route, but they do finally arrive in the natural. Vikings, however, are there with the Marines, with the SCV pool once again, hoping that's a big enough distraction. However, on the right side, Byun with just more army coming on in here. Oliveira. Some high ground tanks are helping out, but he's forced to evacuate the third, loses 14, 15 SCVs, and is now down about 30 supply. Getting something on the other side actually is a little scary. There's not many Marines with those SCVs, guys. It's a little bit of a bloodbath on both sides, but Oliveira really needs to dig into the SCV count and then repair the situation at home as well.
He does manage to equalize the workers, which is nice for Oliveira. Focuses the workers as well at the tail end of the fight. 23 workers go down for Byun, but he's already lost 19, and more importantly, location on the third base. This was the perfect way to set this up for Byun. This is how you play 8 racks. You get the Marine drop in the back, you pull him out of position, and then you dive the front at the same time. That was a classic 8 racks break on a defensive position. Most of Oliveira's tanks are on the left side of the map, but he caught Oliveira flat-footed, which is understandable when you're playing a ton of siege tanks. They're not exactly the most mobile unit. You know, it's very easy to get your feet crossed over each other and trip over yourself a little bit. The tanks on the left side now starting to get isolated by the Marine drops as well. Byun diving on top, looking to try and finish off this opening series.
Oh, again, right before an upgrade. Byun, well done. It looked a little sketch with the opening build, the units going down, then some missed macro, then that combat shield was absolutely terrifying. But he kept control. He made sure his units were in the right position. He kept his calm when he got harassed, and he did do that 1-2 punch to Iraq's. Definitely is powerful with Oliveira not able to track the army well enough. Thought he needed more defenses at the fourth. And if those tanks, he had like 5 tanks, I want to say, at the fourth. If they were on the high ground between the fourth and the third, this is already a completely different game. But Byun, basically by being so active, you find opportunities like that. So a lot of worse players 8 racks and they never find that one opportunity. Byun is so active that eventually he does. In game 1, you can argue that he was so active he kind of made mistakes because of it. I guess that's always the double-edged sword.
Yeah.
But these last 2 games, he's finding the right moments.
I mean, moments of perfection mixed with moments of extremely shaky plays on Big Rob. I think you wrapped it up really well there. And, you know, there's these moments where Byun was like just so savagely decisive. Like this fight right here just came in from 2 sides. The tank volleys are working out for him. It was undoubtedly a huge mistake for Oliveira. But, you know, it always takes 2 players to make a fight that one-sided. One player does everything right. The other one makes 1 or 2 small mistakes that, of course, turn into massive mistakes. Yeah. And, Byun is really showing very much the momentum style that I'm going to get control and finding himself up 2-1 now in this series. You know, yeah, you took a bit of damage here, but he realized, look, if I just get rid of that, regain control, and I can focus back on the front, I'll be able to finish you off for the next wave because you're on 3 base, I'm on 4 going on 5 bases, and I love this little Marine drop to open that up, right? Gets a tank, gets a second one, the other Marines stim forward, suddenly you got 4 or 5 tanks down. Oliveira just doesn't have the support.
Yeah. It really all was about that attack into the 4th base that made it such an opportunity for Byun to be able to win that one. And I think it's kind of a classic scenario where Oliveira probably wasn't expecting Byun's army to be so ready. So you're like, oh, I'm going to dive in and I'll get my 2-2 finish as well in the 10 seconds that it requires to do that. Instead, he sees a gigantic army and is like, well, oh shoot, like I gotta attack. I was planning on attacking. Oh no, but I can't retreat either. So I guess I will siege up, but now my tanks are in like a line and all fighting. It gets so awkward so quickly. And all it took really was just knowing that there was that amount of army at Byun's 4th. If he knew that, he would have played that so much more cautiously. 2-2 would have been done. Tanks would have been sieged. He would have had a bit of a position. And right now, it seems like it's a bit of the same like beats in the last 2 games. And even technically the first game, there was just a lot more chaos involved in that one.
I think Oliveira is going to be kicking himself for 2 things in that last game. One is sending the double dropout before maxing. I think it's nice to poke out when you're otherwise turtling at home,
Yeah.
but you need to make sure you are not letting a drop in the back at the same time. And that's why you have to build a few turrets behind that fourth base in the upper left. He needed turrets on the edge, cutting
Right.
off that rotation. Because the moment Byun's drop gets in, is like, here's 10 Marines in your natural, here's another 15 in your main, have fun dealing with that. And at the same time, you've got 16 Marines on the other side of the map, 3 tanks on your third base suddenly looks like a very vulnerable position. And finding himself down now 1-2 despite an amazing comeback in the first map. Up in the top left side, fighting for his life in this first opening round. For Weibo Gaming, it is Oliveira.
And in the bottom right, as the blue Terran for the Shopify Rebellion, he is Byun.
You know, Zombie Grub, I was worried going to this tournament with the amount of money and prestige on the line, we'd see players get a bit nervous. And I thought it might lead to like slower or more turtley games. We saw a little bit of that like last year at Gamers 8, a few players kind of playing a little bit kind of more careful with the finishing blows. I like that Byun's way of maybe being slightly more nervous is attacking even more and more viciously and just, I'm going to get you. And maybe 1 or 2 slightly sloppy engagements, but I feel like as long as he can just get the confidence going here and not be too affected by the small mistakes. Like there are moments of just utter brilliance in his play, and it's only a few small things that are meaning when he's ahead, he's not capitalizing quite as clean as he could. But you know, I've been criticizing the 8 racks a little bit, saying I'd like to see variety. On this map, keep 8 racksing. This map's great for it. There's a huge spread on the bases, wide open areas. If there was ever a time to keep on doing the strategy you've been excelling with, this is it.
Yeah, I think so, and it is just Byun's specialty, and it's clearly working out because you could argue that game 1 should have also been Byun's. Despite some odd moments here and there where it seems like it's a big loss of units, you look back at the worker count, Byun remains ahead. His aggressiveness as an army, but also as an expansion, like, is really working out for him. I do believe, talking about the map actually for a second, that being that aggressive on the expanding should be, like, very dangerous on this map.
Yeah.
Insanely so. But he might still do it because Oliveira really has missed a lot of chances to try and find those building command centers, and it's just so comical how little it takes to really get that quick cancel. 1 8 Marine drop on a 4th that they're not paying attention to. It's just building, you cancel, easy peasy.
Yeah.
But he just never gets it there.
It's such a fascinating style Byun plays because it's like, oh, surely I should just get a drop out there and catch this command center building, and then you're like, no, when you play against Byun style, you're like, there's a doom drop outside my base at every moment.
Yeah, of course.
It's really cool because I remember a few years ago, like really spending just a deep dive on Byun's build orders and studying how they worked and the way he'd play when he's ahead. And I thought it was so fascinating because it felt so Zerg-like, you know? It's like playing Mutiling Bane where you're like, okay, my army's weaker than yours right now. You have like 8 siege tanks, I have 3. But if you move out, like, I'm base trading. Like, I'm never going to fight you front on with your slow army. So there's a lot of mobility. I'm going to take a 4th base on location. I'm going to take a 5th base on location. I've got a drop waiting to go in. And it's Byun's ability to pick and choose where the fights happen that give this power strength. And it allows him to leave big openings behind it where, don't get me wrong, he can sometimes get taken out by like a 2 starport tank Viking push or something like that, right? Because he is being too greedy. If you can really commit to getting your army on his side of the map early on, he may just leave himself wide open.
He might, yeah. Oliveira certainly on the ropes here. Needs to figure out how to play this in a way that finally gives him an advantage in the early game. Because again, despite a couple of snipes that look really good, you look back at the supply and it's like, actually Byun kind of can live with that. Even if he is shaking his head and he's disappointed, it's like that kind of disappointment that every pro gamer has that they aren't playing perfect, I guess. So we're going to have the micro battle once again in this game. Medevac Cyclone and Medevac Cyclone, same timing as well. And this was the situation exactly what I was talking about, where Byun seems to always lose this drop because Oliveira has excellent map sense, but then Byun's still ahead anyway. In this case, there's not double Cyclone. It goes right into a second tank, so Oliveira really shouldn't have an opportunity to catch Byun off guard. Byun should be able to play around with this Medevac drop, hitting the natural here where there's no Cyclone to respond. Grenade gonna hop the Cyclone in a weird way. And yeah, Byun's gonna be happy with that and just pull away. Easy.
Yeah, a couple of Marines, get yourself a Hellion. At the same time, Oliveira's much happier to lose those units rather than SCVs for once. These are just early game filler units. Their job is to protect your economy. And interference matrix for both sides So a little bit more of a classic diversion back into the tank Raven early stage. And for me, I always think the scariest point is three Ravens, about 3 tanks each, interference matrices. That's where the game can be very suddenly over if someone takes a fantastic fight.
Yeah, this is the first time I think we're seeing Raven interference matrix by Byun, isn't it? It might be the first game, but I think he's actually not had it. So I was going to say, is he going to double starport because he got a 4th gas? Oliveira doing the site delta build, as I think it is called, basically. 2 starport on this map, very linear map, right to base, kind of skinny map as well. He's going to try and apply that pressure to Byun and hope that Byun either doesn't expect it or just nervously messes up against it, because usually the technical way of dealing with this is there in the pro gamers' minds, but execution is a whole different story.
Yeah, information's half the battle. If you can find out that he's doing this early, that's going to be great. And Oliveira is on the other side as well. His drop got defended. Meanwhile, Byun finds 4 SCVs, so that's great. Great for Byun. Doesn't know that it's 2-port as the Viking lib starts to come out. And extra barracks are on the way now. Now, Byun's not playing crazy greedy. We were saying that, doing a build like this could catch Byun out. He might leave himself wide open. He's gone 3rd gas early. He's been building Ravens and tanks nonstop. Now double Viking production of his own. And there is always a timer on this build. If the defensive player, Byun in this case, can get up to stim, combat shields, 1-1 upgrades, he's going to have way more Marines, and he will absolutely trounce your army. But that is a big what if. As the auto turrets come down, you said this drop wasn't going to go down, Zombie Grub. And
so
you're
far,
right.
I'm right. No! I can't believe that happened again. He's so good about having that over, chasing that down. So that's going to take away some of the tiny little problems, thinking about that in the back of your head. It's completely gone. Oliveira can now completely focus on the attack. Byun did scan. There's really only one location you can put that starport to not be scouted by harassment, and that's where you scan. It's actually very logical. So he knows about it. Can he defend it properly?
Second factory on the way for Oliveira. It doesn't have to be a mech transition, but he's definitely doubling down on the tank Viking, saying for the immediate future, I am essentially a mech player. Marines are weak against siege tanks early on, and I'm going to hit you before those upgrades kick in to make him any good. Viking Raven is there available. How the Raven spells go off is massive. If we can see the unit count for the Vikings, I think there should be a Viking advantage right now. 6 versus 4 in Oliveira's favor. If he can get an air versus air battle, that could be fantastic. But the siege up, Byun's buying himself a lot of room, a lot of space, buying himself time, and that's all he needs, because 5 Marines are building at a time, and his stim is almost done. If he can get combat shields as well, it's going to be great for Byun.
Really important not to get stuck on your base. You see someone being very aggressive to you, your first instinct might just be turtle, but if you're in that natural going down your own ramp, it's a death sentence. So you got to be out here in the very least buying time. You might eventually have to retreat, but hopefully you have combat shields, you'll have 20 extra Marines, you'll have, Vikings up in a way they can surround or something. Ooh, that might be a big problem. 2 tanks, maybe just the one actually, that one on siege in time. Nice micro from Byun recognizing the problem. He's going to continue buying time with tanks. He's got Marines going through the middle of the map to intercept reinforcements.
Raven, if that Raven goes down, that'd be huge. Here we go, a massive fight for Oliveira. Vikings are popping out. Anti-armor missile goes down very late. The Ravens are both alive in the red, which is good for Byun if he can repair those back up. But right now, the production's in range. And at the same time, the other side of the map, in the picture-in-picture, Marine counterattack for Byun with stim, causing big trouble for Oliveira's natural.
Yeah, I thought he had a reinforcing unit seeing it, but it's possible he just couldn't get anything anyway. Factory units don't produce all that quickly, guys. So the natural under attack here for Oliveira, and he really needs to get damage done. He's going to find a starport. That's actually pretty good damage. The Marines got a little stalled out in the natural. One tank was going to be sniped. SCVs being the body to try and help that. That's, he gets it. He gets it. Second tank will clean this up, but the fact that he loses 11 SCVs and a tank and a distraction is still big.
Byun has no starport. His starport has been destroyed from the low ground. Even if he lifted it off, the Vikings would have shot it down. He's in a very hard spot. Now, I'd actually love to see Oliveira pick up Marines and drop on those tanks on the north, but of course, there's a lot going on for him. Resetting his economy right now. He's down 8 workers, but he is clearing production. Was that the factory that just went down?
Yes, it was.
Oh my lord!
Yeah, he's actually lost. Like he's very little production. Now Oliveira is going to push the issue. Unfortunately, he didn't see that tank on the edge, which is going to kill one of his tanks. And okay, not quite. No, he did kill the second one. Well, the second one killed the second. The point is, everyone's losing tanks every which way. Liberator is sieged up and is still going here, but they will be taken down. However, at the cost of a lot of Byun's own air. Raven goes down, Vikings go down. Oliveira starting to wiggle his way into this natural. That is a really problematic point. 3 Liberators on the way for Oliveira. And he has a 3rd CC, guys, which I'm not even sure if Byun knows about.
Yeah, the Vikings land behind the tanks. and Oliveira claims control of the ramp. You talked about this earlier, Zombie Grub. If they get control of your ramp on this map, you are walking into siege tank fire in a narrow corridor. It's a disastrous spot to be in. Byun, you can see on his face, he does not have a chance there. A tilt of the head to the side and types out the GG.
Oh, Oliveira holds strong, and it did kind of come out to the summary I gave, right? Where I 100% believe that Byun knows technically what he has to do against that. In fact, he was already doing it at the very first step, getting onto the front, buying that time, keeping them away from that ramp. But I guess what he didn't really account for was that he was going to lose his production.
Yeah.
Now, that does happen eventually, and you kind of have to do the timing of, like, I want to wait till the very last second. I want to get my last Viking out before swapping off. But the starport going down and then a factory going down, too, I'm pretty sure that just wouldn't happen in a lot of his other defenses.
100% Zombie Grub. And I mean, we can see the Marine counterattack here, but I think at this point, honestly, Byun's already missed his window. And I really feel like we've seen Maru defend this many times and show expertly what to do. And you really need to engage them earlier and ignore the air fight. Land all your Vikings, interference matrix the tanks, pull your SCVs, and jump on top of this army earlier. But the moment he's got that siege up on your production, you're kind of attacking around a corner. You can't really clear his army up because you're never going to beat Byun in the Viking versus Viking battle. But if you've got 2 Ravens, that's 4 interference matrices. How many tanks does he have? Maybe 5 at most? 4 of those get taken out with interference matrix. You stim on top. And remember, if he's not got the tank shots to your Marines, even with stim, he'll get 1 or 2 tank shots off in your Marines and SCVs. So I think landing the Vikings there and saying, we're just going to fight on the ground. You can take this guy. As long as I get my matrices off, I can break this. Easier said than done. But, I mean, that's just the way it is there. If you don't manage to do that, you could see the Viking versus Viking fight was grossly efficient for Oliveira. I mean, that was exactly what he wanted in that game. Viking advantage, wins the skies, and carries it forwards from there.
Yeah, and I think that Byun also had his tanks kind of oddly positioned. They seemed awfully spaced out around his natural third, so you had 1 or 2 tanks fighting instead of all 4 or 5, which is also a drastic difference. It's just a tricky build. It's like, that is honestly the case. It's a very tricky build because not only do you have to account for your own opponents, who's very, very good, their positioning and their micro, but you also got to account for those kind of like small things. Oh, my factory's going to die. Okay, my reinforcements are coming around a corner, you know, in a way that they didn't in that last time I defended. It is such an awkward map, I guess, for that even though it is kind of on the nose, like you can figure it's on the way, you can almost 100% scout it with that scan, and you still are scared of it.
Yeah, it's a nasty push. There's a reason why it's kind of dominated the TVT meta over the last 6 months. That build feels like it's been almost half of the games. Kind of fascinating looking at the demeanor difference between the players. We were watching, even when the camera wasn't showing, I was watching the camera feed there for Oliveira. And you don't see it now. He looks like he's having a bit of meditation. I think that's a good idea because he looked like he was playing the game. Here in the lobby, he was frantically pressing buttons on his keyboard, clicking his mouse. It felt like he was kind of like very amped up, very G'd up. And I was like, oh, he kind of looks like Rainer when he's playing, where it's all adrenaline and excitement. So I kind of liked seeing him there just take a breather and say, hey, let's calm the heart rate down a little bit. Let's take a breath because we're going into a deciding match. And what a great series to start off the tournament for both of these 2 players. And I think it's a lot more intense than either of them would like as we go into Game 5. Down here in the bottom side of Amphion, representing Shopify Rebellion, it is Byun.
I love this as a 5th game map. This is
such a fun map.
This is my favorite situation, guys. In the top position, we do have, from Weibo Gaming, it is Oliveira.
My favorite Byun style a little bit more. I always think of this as like Dark's map in ZVT. I feel like he like never loses it. There's certain players who love this map, but between these 2, I'm like, well, it's good for drops. It's good for mobility. Byun style should be good because of that. On the other hand, there are some nasty ledges where those tanks can take advantage. And I think Oliveira is very flexible as a player. He's capable of being the guy who takes the Marine momentum himself. You know, he doesn't have to keep playing this kind of totally defensive style. You can tell he said, look, Byun's an aggressive player. I'll be a bit more tank Viking focused this series, even though it was aggressive tank Viking the last game. Maybe, you know, there's even room for like 2-1-1 style builds on this map.
Yeah, absolutely. You have the entire left side, not a place where ground units can get to until they mine out the minerals, which then, you know, might give you more opportunities, but then gives your opponent more opportunities as well. So we just consider this an only air portion of the map. So obviously you're going to abuse that as much as possible. Then you have the mid alley that is most of where the attacks go eventually in this map. And then at some point in some games, you have the entire right side of the map used. It's like sometimes we forget that it exists because so much is in the middle or sometimes to the left, depending on build orders. And it can get very crazy, actually. And we've seen some players, maybe in different matchups, but actually try and maybe like make it less frantic, you know, take the triangle base and just kind of do more of a huddle so that it's not left being dropped, right being concaved, up through the middle. It's very interesting. I do quite enjoy the map.
That's fascinating in TVT as well, that triangle base setup you're talking about, because like, I always, my theory in TVT is like, hey, if you control that space below your main, that's good because they can't doom drop your main base, right?
Right.
Problem is, like, if you both kind of do that on this map, you're like an arm's length from each other.
Yes, yes.
Whoever controls the middle has got such a big advantage, and if you manage to push even a little into their territory, everything opens up very suddenly. So it's like a, you know, I guess a little bit like, you know, very, very hard position to break, but once it breaks, it just, everything crumbles apart.
If they expand to the right here, I think it can be a little more loosey-goosey. We
More
can have drops left,
yeah.
right. Yeah, it gets a little more chaotic. If they both triangle expand, it's a Cold War, absolutely. It's like, well, I don't want to lose one Marine because you're going to immediately snap me up. You're going to take my third, you're going to win the game. So,
I mean, if they play the way they've played so far in this series, right, yeah, you could see like Byun goes all the way along the edge of the map, right? And then Oliveira kind of triangle expands and tries to go to the gold in between along the left flank in the very middle. I doubt we'd actually see that in this matchup. That middle base is so exposed, but
yeah.
Cool to see what's in store. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of strategic deviation in the openings, has there, Zombie Grub? Outside of like a few proxy barracks, it's a lot of Cyclone Medevac versus Cyclone Medevac. And to be fair, it's a flexible, you know, tool. You can gain information, you can counter pressure. But we saw one Viking earlier in the series, I think. But other than that, it's been a lot of medevacs. This time, though, Oliveira not building it. He's changing it up. He's saying, I'm done dancing with the Cyclone medevac duel.
Yeah, which, again, like he seems to do wonderful things when it comes to Banshees. When it comes to catching Byun off guard by catching him in the airspace. But ultimately, it hasn't really given him the victories that we thought it would. So just going to avoid it completely and actually really shake things up with a Banshee.
And you know what? There's a Banshee, you don't like running into Raven. But guess what? It's medevac into Viking. Byun might not play Raven at all, and if he does, it's a very late Raven. So this is potentially a very good opportunity. And you can kind of predict that Byun's going to play a bit more aggressive on this map with these wide open spaces and stuff, so maybe this is something that Oliveira did predict. Unfortunately, not ready for this drop. He just moved out of his main base at the worst possible time.
Yes, he did, and the Banshee's going to pop, so he might be actually able to see it. No, he has to skedaddle. Okay, successful blocking of the scout on the Banshee pop. And if he had seen the starport with the tech lab, that still would have been ambiguous, but I'm not even sure he saw the tech lab.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that actually might still be a secret. I really like that point because Byun has been so Raven light. Oh, he barely saw it. Wow. But he's been so Raven light that I think this is actually a beautiful move. But again, even though we saw it, guys, that could be Raven and Interference Matrix.
Yeah. If you haven't watched in the last couple of years, you might be thinking, well, it's always Cloak, isn't it? No, not anymore, because you do need to get the Raven upgrade for Interference Matrix. So it's ambiguous. There's no tell. And going double medevac. Byun's playing a super YOLO Doom Drop style against Cloaked Banshee. He's not going to have any detection, Zombie Grub.
No, he's not. Actually, I'm not sure he has any scans.
He's
so funny that Banshee just was like parallel to the army and never got scouted. Very awkward situation right now as SCVs are going to go down. This is the first Banshee. Scan in the main was available. That's big. That's huge because if the Banshee goes down, that would have been so nice. It is just out of the detection range. Byun can't believe it. All he can do is laugh. Oh, that's so many more SCVs going down. That's just so much more chaos.
This is a big problem. Byun is looking so frustrated, understandably so. If he gets rid of that Banshee, he's got time to get turrets up before the second one does too much damage. But now, oh gosh, he used the scan to finish the first one, which means the second one is going to come in, and there is no answer. The engineering bay is not being built right now. Oliveira with an incredibly intelligent choice to play Cloaked Banshee. He was looking for damage. He did not realize he would win the massive lottery here and get a huge victory. Byun drops, but unfortunately into the one most well-defended spot for Oliveira. His tank defends easily.
Wow, you haven't seen a Banshee win a TVT in a while, but here it is. Byun just cannot believe it, and I am with him. But what a brilliant move for Game 5. There was absolutely a pattern in Byun's games where he was very Raven-light, if at all, in most of the games, and he was so eager to get to the medevacs and get the aggression going that he was lacking the defense back at home. He wasn't going to have particularly fast engineering bays. Just a beautiful strategic decision.
Byun needs to dig deep. He's not out, but he is most certainly down. And there is going to be a real... I mean, he's shaking his head. He realizes just 16 workers. Like, he doesn't know it's 16 workers, but yeah, the pain. And unfortunately there, it looks like he's very close to tapping out of this game. I mean, at this point, you don't want to throw in the towel, but what can you do to get back in it? He's not building SCVs. He's just making army. And he's basically saying, let's go all in. He does restart SCVs now as he gets scanned. And that's, oh, such a painful thing to go down to here potentially in Game 5. Such a close, hard-fought series, but Oliveira's preparation has been fantastic, and you can see it with his build choice on Amphion.
Yeah, that was absolutely brutal. And I guess now that we might be looking at a potential loser here, guys, just a reminder, there's a lower bracket, but it is extremely tough. He could potentially face even maybe Maru, right? But Dark's also possibly there. And stuff.
Every match is seeding. Even if you're not going to get to the top 4 from this group stage, it's seeding into that knockout bracket is so huge later on as well. The tank sieging in range. Oliveira's single tank just did so much damage. His Vikings are clearing out the air units. Byun unable to answer it. That double Banshee surprise